Here to shake the matrix, expand our minds, and make us all think. How are you guys doing this grand morning? Well, it's great to be on here and good to have you. Let's start with this. Let's take a deep breath and hold. And let go. Let's let our shoulders relax. Just sit in the moment of being. Let's put our hands on our heart and take a deep breath and hold. Let go. And let's just say to the fallen mindset, the body of the matrix system, we say deactivate, turn off. We say to the being, the divine spark, the original blueprint of our design, creator mode. We say fully activate, fully on. And take a deep breath. And hold. And let go. So, what if the body is not remembering pain? It's not only remembering pain. That's what I meant to say. But also remembering the way home. I mean, what if the same body that has carried exhaustion has also been carrying wisdom? What if the symptoms that confuse us, are not always our enemies to be fought? But messages asking to be understood for once. Because, once you begin to listen to the body differently, you begin to realize something profound. The body is never just reacting to the present. It is carrying history. It holds memory. It is carrying all the moments you had to leave yourself in order to survive. And for many people, that surviving became a way of life. You learned how to keep going. You learned how to endure. You learned how to override discomfort. And you learned how to call it strength. But sometimes what we call strength is actually disconnection. And the body knows the difference. The body remembers what the mind edits, and the body remembers what the mouth never said. And the body remembers the tears that were swallowed. The body remembers the anger that was silenced. The body remembers that the grief that was never given a place to live. And over time, what was never expressed begins to live in this system. And that is why so many people carry tension they cannot explain. Or why so many people feel tired even after sleep. Why the shoulders stay tight. Why the chest feels heavy. Why the stomach contracts before there is even a conscious thought. See, the body speaks before the story becomes clear. And that is why this teaching matters. Because if we only treat the surface, we may miss the deeper conversation. A pain is not always just pain. Sometimes it is the body saying, I have been holding this for too long. Sometimes fatigue is not laziness, it is depleting from years of overextension. It is a system that never felt fully safe. Sometimes emotional pain is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence that something in you is still asking to be felt. And if we do not listen carefully, we can begin to believe the body is the problem. But what if the body is the witness? What if the body is the record keeper? What if the body has been faithfully holding what the conscious mind carry not yet could not carry it. There's something almost sacred about this. Hey, brother. Because the body does not betray us, it reveals us. And the more honesty we listen, the more we begin to see how much of healing is not about control, but relationship. See, relationship with sensation, relationship with emotion, relationship with memory, relationship with the deeper layers of who we are. In psychology, there is a growing understanding that the mind and body are inseparable. What affects one affects the other. What lives in the nervous system shapes perception, emotion, and behavior. And what is repeatedly suppressed does not simply vanish. It often reappears as symptoms, patterns, reactions, or suffering. And this is not only psychological, it is deeply human. Because a human being is not just a thinking machine. A human being is an organism of meaning. And we do not simply process data, we process pain, we process hope, we process loss, we process love. And we process what was too much, too soon, or never received. And if we were never taught how to process those things, the body carries them for us. And this is why so many traditions, ancient and modern, have always honored the body as more than matter. See, the body is not a prison. The body is not a machine. The body is not a mistake. The body is an expression of life intelligence. And when we begin to view the body this way, we stop relating to it as the enemy. And we stop asking, what is wrong with me? And we begin asking, what is my body trying to show me? And that question changes everything. Because healing begins where judgment ends. And healing begins where curiosity replaces fear. And healing begins where compassion enters the place the pain once occupied alone. And this is where psychology becomes so important. Because when a person has lived through trauma, the nervous system can remain organized around threat long after the danger has passed. That means the body may still be bracing, still waiting, still defending, still preparing for the next blow. So even in a safe room, the body may not feel safe. Even in a calm moment, the body may not feel calm or even know what calm is. Even when life changes, the body may still be living in an older reality. And that is why healing is not just understanding. It is retraining. Retraining the body to recognize safety. Retraining the breath to soften, retraining the muscles to release, retraining the heart to no longer expect danger in every silence. And that takes patience, it takes repetition, it takes love that is consistent enough to become believable. And this is where many people struggle because they want healing to be a moment. But often healing is a relationship. And a relationship are built through presence. And presence is one of the most powerful medicines we have. Not because it erases pain instantly, because it gives pain a place to be witnessed. And what it witnessed begins to transform. And there is a deep human need to be seen without being corrected, to be felt without being judged, to be held without being managed. And the body longs for that kind of contact. And sometimes the body does not need a solution first. Sometimes it needs recognition. Sometimes it needs you to say, hey, guess what? I know you've been carrying this. And I know you've been trying to protect me. And I know you have been speaking through tension, through fatigue, through discomfort, through shutdown. I hear you now. And that kind language actually matters to the body, because the body responds not only to the physical input, but to emotional tone. And so your internal voice becomes part of the environment your body lives in. And if your inner world is constantly critical, the body learns to brace. And if your inner world is constantly impatient, the body learns to tighten. And if your inner world is constantly punishing, the body learns that it must stay on guard. But when the inner voice becomes kind, when it becomes steady, when it becomes compassionate, the body begins to receive a different message. You're safe enough to soften. You do not need to keep proving your worth through suffering, and you're allowed to rest now. And that message can change a life, because, many of us were raised to believe that love has to be earned, that peace has to be deserved, and that rest has to wait until everything is finished. So physical pain and ailment is a reflection of an unhealed mind, 100%. And that rest has to wait until everything is finished. And that we must push ourselves to the edge before we are allowed to stop. But the body cannot heal in a climate of endless demand. It cannot repair while under constant pressure. It cannot fully exhale while being told it is never doing enough. And that is why self-compassion is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Not sentimental compassion, not pretend compassion, real compassion. The kind that looks at suffering and does not turn away. The kind that says you matter. The pain matters. Your fatigue matters. Your history matters. Your healing matters. And there is something powerful that happens when compassion becomes embodied. And when you place a hand on your chest, the belly, the throat, the jaw, the back, or wherever the body has been speaking, and you stay there long enough to feel what is there, you begin to create a new experience in the nervous system. Not an imagined one, a real one. The body begins to learn, I can be touched with gentleness. I can be approached without danger. And I can be felt without being abandoned. I can be witnessed without being overwhelmed. And this is how safety begins. This is how trust begins. This is how the body begins to reorganize around something other than survival. And when that begins, healing no longer just a concept, it becomes a lived reality. Now, there's another layer here that many people overlook, is sometimes what we carry is not only personal, sometimes it's ancestral. Sometimes the body is holding fear that did not begin with us. Sometimes the body carries patterns from the family system, the unspoken grief, the unprocessed rage, the silence around what hurt too much to name. And so the body became a kind of living archive, a place where memory inherited the emotional overlap. And this is why some people react strongly to things that seem small on the surface. And the surface is not always the whole story, right? The body may be responding to years of compression, to generations of suppression, to lineages of people who never had the language for what they carried. And if that is true, then healing is not only personal, it is intergenerational. And when you heal something in yourself, you may be interrupting a pattern that is lived for a very long time. And you may be becoming the person in your family who finally pauses, who finally feels, who finally names what was unnamed, who finally chooses honesty over numbness. That is not small. That is sacred. And this is where spirituality deepens and conversation deepens, because spirit is not separate from embodiment. The divine does not only live in heaven, it lives in the lived experiences of being human. It lives in breath. It lives in awareness. It lives in the willingness to tell the truth. And in many mystical traditions, the soul is not asking to escape the body. It is asking to inhabit it more fully, to bring light into places that were left in the shadow, to bring love into places that were left untouched, to bring unconscious into what has been automatic for too long. And this is why the work is not merely about symptoms or symptom release. It is about wholeness. Wholeness means we do not exile the wounded parts. We do not reject the tired parts. We do not spiritualize around the pain so quickly that we never actually feel it. We bring everything into relationship: the grief, the fear, the resentment, the shame, the longing, the tiredness, the exhaustion places, the hidden places, the places that learned to survive by disappearing. We do not shame them. We listen. And because what is hidden does not heal through denial, what is hidden heals through loving attention. And this is where many people begin to, experience something surprising. The very thing they feared would overwhelm them begins to soften what finally met. The emotion they thought would destroy them begins to move when finally allowed. And the sensation they thought meant damage may simply have been the body asking for care. And this is why it is so important not to rush awareness, not to demand instant transformation, not to turn healing into another performance. Healing is often quiet. Healing is often gradual. Healing is often looks like becoming less divided, more honest, more present, more available to life. And maybe that is the real miracle, not that we become unvulnerable, but that we become intimate with our own humanity, that we learn how to stay, and to stay with the breath, to stay with the sensation, to stay with the feeling, to stay with ourselves long enough to discover what we are not, that we are not broken beyond return. We are living beings. We are adaptive. We are responsive. We are shaped by experience, yes, but not imprisoned by it. And the body is wise even when it is exhausted, even when it is hurting, even when it is afraid. It is still trying to move toward balance. It is still trying to restore. It is still trying to tell the truth in the only way it knows how. So let the question become gentler, not why is my body failing me, but what is my body asking me now? Maybe it is asking for rest. Maybe it is asking for truth. Maybe it is asking for grief. Maybe it is asking for boundaries, and maybe it is asking for tenderness, and maybe it is asking for the simple miracle of being believed. And when you begin to answer that call, something sacred happens. The body is no longer carrying the burden alone. The body is no longer unseen. The body is no longer the place where everything gets buried. It becomes a place of return, a place of listening, a place where healing can begin again. And maybe that is the invitation of this whole journey, not to force the body into silence, but to learn its language, not to dominate, but to honor it, not to fear it, its pain, but to trust its wisdom, because the body has been speaking all along. And once you are ready to hear it, your life can begin to change from the inside out. You do not need to have it all figured out today. You only need to begin. Begin with honesty. Begin with presence. Begin with one part of the body and begin with one breath. Begin with one moment, real contact, and say, I see you. I hear you. I am here now. I am no longer abandoning you. I am no longer at war with you. I'm ready to listen. And that sometimes is the beginning of everything. Don't forget that, you guys. Peace and love, you guys, and you're welcome. Peace and love. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.